It began because I got my degree in acting. I got a BFA in acting, and I moved to the city, and I was working as an actress. Um, and I was pretty frustrated about the ways in which my identity as a feminist, which has always predated even the theater, was clashing with the theater that I was sort of able to make as an actor. I mean, I was always auditioning to play like the hero's wife or girlfriend or prostitute. And it's not that there aren't good roles for wives or girlfriends or prostitutes, but I was like, it's really frustrating to me that this is the default narrative, and I wish someone would write more new sort of feminist classics, and then much to my chagrin, I thought, well, if someone's gonna do that, it might as well be me. I bet my friend $100 that I could write a new feminist classic, and I wanted to start with adaptation because I had a very first of all, I feel like the classics are cultural touchstones. We use them as a common language. We teach them in our schools. They teach us a lot about a hero or a heroine's arc. So I could sort of Trojan horse my feminism in them. And I also had a very specific idea for how I wanted to do it. I wanted to make it really irreverent, really theatrical, and take a new play approach to adaptation. So not trying to recreate the original, really coming at it and trying to make something completely new, unexpected, so people could come in who know the original and see something new, but also see in conversation with the original that they know, but also people who have no relationship with the original at all can come and appreciate, because what's the point of just, recreating whatever, Vanity Fair or the Odyssey or all these things. So I started doing that. My first play was produced. I wrote my first play in something like 2012, 2013, and my first play was produced in 2014. And much to my surprise, it became this whole career. I kind of never thought any of them would get produced, and it is a continuing source of shock that this is like half of my career now. Yeah, I decided to do the Jane Austens at the time when I decided to do the Jane Austens, the vast majority of theater adaptations of it were by men. There's nothing wrong with anyone being adapted by a man, but I was like, well, it seems wrong that there are no female voices adapting Jane Austen. And Jane Austen was interested in a lot of stuff that I'm interested in, like social pressures. She was a proto-feminist. She's very, very funny. A lot of the sort of adaptations of hers were very, very romantic and classical. And I was like, well, what if I can make it irreverent and modern and super funny? Um, and little more biting. So, I started with Sense and Sensibility, and I've been doing throughout the years all the Austens in the order she did them. So I'm at number 5. I have 2 more. For me, I always think of it as a collaboration between myself and an original author who is sometimes currently dead. I write new plays as well. So I'm coming at it as a new playwright, and I'm sometimes trying to go quite seamlessly with the original author and sometimes trying to go quite far. Um, so for Sense and Sensibility in particular, I thought, well, I really want to write a play that's about how women are punished both for obeying the rules and for breaking the rules, which is still very true, as we know. So I wanted to create a device that would allow you to understand how these women are always being judged and also make the audience feel complicit in that. So I created this chorus of gossips who sort of push and pull us through the play. Um, and then it was important to me to create really parallel lives for the sisters. It's sort of a love story between the sisters in that play, um, in which they're both caught in these, for lack of a better word, love triangles, and one of them is sort of sexually reckless and goes out and really is open with her heart. One is quite more reserved, and both of them are sort of punished till they ultimately find resolution. It's a comedy, so it is quite funny and quite there are lots of moments of absurdity and screwball comedy in it. I also wanted it to be really theatrical, so it's designed for a lot of doubling. People play a lot of different parts. And that's how I started with Sense and Sensibility. And then I've adapted again, I write new plays as well. So I've written new plays in there as well. But whenever I'm adapting a new piece, I try to come at it with a thematic question and also a new device every time. I don't want to just be a one-trick pony. And, so Pride and Prejudice, for example, was the second Austen I worked on. I really thought, well, um, it, this is about how do you know if you made the right match in life or if you've met your match in life. So I thought, but it's quite high stakes, but how we play love is kind of a high stakes, insane game. We literally have books called The Rules and stuff. So I wanted it to make it about a bunch of different matches. I wanted to make it high stakes, but quite absurd and funny as love is. And so I made it a farce. And I also, intersected a lot of game theory in it. Yeah, and every single play has different devices. I can say there's some commonalities. I really like humor. Everything's always feminist and female-centered, and I like things that are socially, quite theatrical and socially quite irreverent and socially relevant now. But every adaptation's a little bit different, and I think that makes the plays quite different from each other. Yeah, like Little Women is very different from the Odyssey. It's very different from Vanity Fair is very different from Mansfield Park, etc. I love Vanity Fair. That is one of my favorite novels ever. I think it's just a stunning, cutting, very funny, very sad novel. I actually stumbled upon it more or less. I was doing research for what became my second or third play, a play called The Little Fellow, which just premiered 2 years ago in San Diego, about the famous courtesan Harriet Wilson, who blackmailed all her wealthy clients. Really interesting person. And so I was doing a lot of research on sex work in the 19th century, and I sort of stumbled into Vanity Fair, because Becky Sharp in that world is often cited as kind of a rule breaker, and I just fell in love with it. It is very clear to me. Come at me, Margaret Mitchell fans. First of all, why are you a Margaret Mitchell fan? But second of all, it is very clear to me that Margaret Mitchell wildly ripped off Vanity Fair and Gone with the Wind. That seems pretty obvious to me. It's really a story of two women, and one's good, quote unquote good, and one's quote unquote bad, and they're friends. They have this fraught friendship, and they live different lives that keep intersecting throughout the book. And I was looking at it, and I was to adapt, and I just thought, this is impossible. It is so hard. They live very different lives. Can I write a play that's essentially two plays intersecting in one? And quite often when I think something's impossible, I must do it. So that is Vanity Fair, and that became my second produced play. It actually ended up that kind of intersecting of two stories where people are living different lives, but they are inextricably linked, then gave me a basis for my adaptation of the Odyssey, which was just at American Repertory Theater like 2 months ago. It premiered, which is Odysseus and Penelope living very different lives, but they're interconnected. So yeah, but I'm obsessed with Vanity Fair. I think it's a beautiful novel, and I loved how complex the characters are, and how the basic premise of that book is we're all essentially hypocrites in some way or another. There are lots of straightforward adaptations of everything, very dramaturgically faithful, and that's just not what I bring to the table. I like totally respect it, but I'm always trying to go, what hasn't been seen before? So for me, Emma, I was really, really interested in constantly breaking the fourth wall. So Emma talks to the audience constantly and is constantly acknowledging, we're in a theater. I'm talking to you. This is Emma. This is my show. The show is called Emma. She starts out the play, and the beginning of the play is, You see this? I did this. Yes, me. All me. Aren't I clever? Like, everything's very, um I was interested in creating this sort of I Love Lucy type heroine who is has such unshakable self-belief that at the same time you want and who also has a ton of intelligence and capability at a time when women are not allowed to channel that into anything. Particularly Emma is a higher class lady, she's not allowed to have a job. So for me that became a story of a border collie with no sheep who is constantly creating trouble. And in the same way, when you watch I Love Lucy, you're sort of wanting Lucille Ball to succeed and also cringing and wanting her to pull back. I wanted Emma to be very much about that. And it is very much a play about how to operate as a woman with a lot of capability in a world that has a ceiling for you and how you keep on trying to bust through it. And it's very screwball comedy. So, yeah, that is what Emma is. We had the world premiere at the Guthrie. Our opening night was the day Roe v. Wade went down. So, like that play has actually become more and more topical as we have more and more limitations in the world on what women are supposed to be. And so that play has been, it premiered in 2022 and it just has been picking up lots and lots of steam because all of a sudden it's very, very topical, tragically.